All right. I blew out the dust in this power supply, this Amiga 1000 power supply. It was really dusty on the inside, but now it's pretty clean. If you ever have a problem with not getting any power at all from an Amiga 1000 power supply, check this internal fuse right there. That's a slow blow fuse. Check to see if that's blown. If that's blown, then you won't get any power at all coming out of this power supply. Another common problem with the Amiga 1000 power supply is a faulty switch, power switch right here. And this could be easily replaced. It's just a standard switch that bolts on, so it could be easily replaced. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, take a better look. From, if you remember from the last video, how dirty this was, but now I cleaned it really good. I blew it out really good with my air compressor. Do not use canned air. Use an air compressor when you blow out the dust from your computers. I used a small damp sponge to get in there and clean this really good. Clean all this really good. And the same thing with the rear part there and the fan blades. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just get the gist of that dust off those fan blades. Especially, you want to especially pay attention to the leading edge of the fan blades. Okay, because it's the leading edge. If that gets full of dust, which it will, that will restrict the airflow. Okay, in this case, the leading edge, because the air is being sucked out of the power supply, so the leading edge is going to be in the rear here, and that's where you'll find a lot of the dust caked on the leading edge of these fan blades. So it's very important that you get that dust off these fan blades, the dust that accumulates on the leading edge of the fan blades. That dust needs to especially be taken care of and gotten rid of. These are high quality fans. They're 110 volt or 220, whatever part of the world you're in, but these are AC fans that basically use your AC power. They're high quality ball bearing fans, and if I remember correctly, these are all made in Japan. Yeah, they're Japanese fans. Yeah, these are really high quality fans. I do not recommend replacing this fan with a modern 12 volt DC fan. Don't do it. If you need to replace this fan because the ball bearings have finally worn out, because this uses ball bearings, which are much higher quality than sleeve bearing or hydro bearing fans. Ball bearing fans is what you want for a power supply, especially for a power supply. Okay, because if this fan ever goes out or freezes up, the power supply very quickly burn up. So that's why when a lot of the older, in order for a lot of the older power supplies to be UL approved, okay, a ball bearing fan was required. You will never see a sleeve bearing fan or a so-called hydrofluid bearing fan in any of the older power supplies. Any of the good quality power supply, even today, will have a ball bearing fan that's made in Japan or Belgium or Germany. Okay, really high quality fans. I mean, you got all these people talking about fluid bearing and hydrofluid bearing. That's just a fancy name for sleeve bearing, which is crap. It's crap. There's only two types of fans, either ball bearing or sleeve bearing. Now, your sleeve bearing fans come in many variations, and they have many different fancy names attached to them. But all of them are still sleeve bearing, which is low quality garbage. Okay, if you want a high quality fan, and this includes case fans for your modern day PCs, you want to get a fan that is ball bearing, preferably one that's made in Japan like this one. These are very high quality fans. Now, ball bearing fans come in two forms. They're either single ball bearing or dual ball bearing. The dual ball bearing fans are of course higher quality fans. But even the single ball bearing fans, okay, in other words, they have a single ring of balls, okay, they're much higher quality than any of the sleeve bearing fans. And this includes your hydrofluic bearing or magnetic bearing. That's all different fancy names for sleeve bearing, which is low quality. You don't want sleeve bearing fans. Ball bearing fans are much higher quality. These fans are known to last for decades, not years, decades. These are very high quality fans. So I couldn't help but notice watching one of Jan Beta's videos. I don't mean to pick on him, but I noticed he replaced the fan in his Amiga 1000 power supply with one of those stupid Nokia fans. Those are crap. They're way overpriced sleeve bearing fan garbage. Only a dumbass uses Nokia fans. They're crap. They really are. They're way overpriced sleeve bearing fan crap. That's what they are. And he actually replaced this high quality fan here, because he thought it sounded a little bit noisy, with one of those low quality Nokia fans. That was stupid. Never do that. These fans are a little noisy because they are AC fans. They're very strong, very powerful ball bearing fans. They're not going to be as quiet as today's low quality sleeve bearing garbage. Okay? Because the new fans are designed to be quiet. They're not designed for quality. These fans are designed for quality, longevity. They're designed to last a very long time. They're somewhat a little bit noisier, yes. But that's okay. Vintage computers usually are noisy. That's just one of the charms of a vintage computer. And if you don't like the noise, then apparently you don't really like vintage computers. Okay? So, I don't recommend replacing the original fan here in the Amiga 1000 power supply with a modern sleeve bearing fan. I don't care what fancy name they give it, hydrofluid bearing, all the stupid fancy names they give for these cheap sleeve bearing fans. Don't replace this high quality ball bearing fan with a modern sleeve bearing fan. Just don't do it. If you have to replace this fan, which is rare, these fans are really good quality. But if you have to replace this fan, go back with the same type of fan. Okay? I just want to let you guys know about that. Alright, I wiped down the metal part of the case with our clean rag sprayed with a little bit of WD-40, and then after I wiped it down, I wiped it again with a clean rag, because you don't want a bunch of sticky WD-40 film on here, because that will attract dust. You just want to condition the metal, and then you wipe it down again with a clean rag. Okay, that's all you want to do. Now, don't do the inside. Just take like a makeup. I use a makeup brush like this, which is made out of natural fibers. Okay, and I just go like this, just to get the dust out of the inside. You don't want any kind of oil or anything on the inside, because that will attract dust, and the dust will stick to it. So on the inside of this, you just want to brush out the dust like that. Okay, and that's good enough. On the inside, of course, you want to blow it out with your air compressor. Again, do not use canned air. Never use canned air for electronics, especially vintage computer electronics. The reason for that is because that compressed, that air that's in the canned air, okay, if that ever turns to liquid, and it will very rapidly, that liquid is highly corrosive to electronics. So when you're using those cans of air, okay, as soon as you feel that can getting cold, stop using it. If you don't, that air will turn into a liquid form. And in liquid form, it is highly corrosive to electronics. Okay? Also, if you're using canned air, never shake the can at all. Never shake that can, because again, the air will turn into liquid form, and that liquid is highly corrosive. Also, when you're using canned air, never tilt the can more than 15 degrees. It even tells you that on, if you read the instructions on a lot of those compressed air cans, it will tell you, never tilt the can of compressed air more than 15 degrees. Because again, the air will turn into its liquid form, and that liquid is highly corrosive to electronics. And for these reasons, I never use canned air on any of my vintage computers. Just don't do it. I recommend that you don't do it either. Get yourself an air compressor. You can get a nice 3-gallon air compressor with a 20-foot hose and a rubber tip spray nozzle for about $150. That may seem like a lot of money, but that would be, one of the best $150 you ever spent. If you're going to be working on vintage computer stuff all the time, you really need to invest in the proper tools. And one of those proper tools is a 3-gallon air compressor, because you're constantly blowing dust out of your computers, and that's what I recommend that you use. Don't use canned air. Only dumbasses use canned air on vintage electronics. And I see so many of you doing that in your YouTube videos, including Jan Beta and Adrian's Digital Basement, and even the 8-bit guy. I've caught him using canned air. Don't do it. Don't use canned air. Get yourself a 3-gallon air compressor. That's what I use, and it works great, as you can see. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to put the lid back on, because I already blew out the dust. I cleaned the fan blades. It looks really good. I inspected the capacitors. They're very high quality Japanese capacitors for the most part, as far as I can tell. And if they're not bulging, they're not blowing the tops, doesn't appear to be leaking, don't mess with them. Don't mess with them. Okay? I mean, you people are in this this recap, this recap, we got to recap your vintage electronics. You got to recap your vintage electronics. I'm here to tell you that with through-hole capacitors, that's not always the case. Okay? Through-hole capacitors are much higher quality than that surface mount crap. Now with surface mount capacitors, yes. If they're more than 15, 20 years old, you bet your life you better recap those boards. But on a through-hole motherboard, usually, now a lot of you are going to disagree with me, but you're amateurs, I'm a professional. I know what I'm talking about, okay? So listen to what I'm saying. For the most part, you do not need to recap a vintage computer board that has through-hole capacitors, electrolytic capacitors. Those are very high quality capacitors. They rarely ever leak. They rarely ever go bad. Now, the thing that will most likely go wrong with those is that they dry out. They can dry out, especially the larger ones. They can dry out. And of course, those need to be replaced. Or they could have a direct short in the capacitor. Okay, and of course, those need to be replaced. But as long as the capacitor is working, and you can tell that by the fact, does the computer work or not? As long as the computer is working, and you have inspected those through-hole capacitors, you don't see any leakage, no signs of leakage, no signs of bulging. You know, capacitors will bulge sometimes if there's problems internally. Okay, if you don't see any signs of leakage or bulging, leave those capacitors alone. You'll actually do more harm than good. Only replace the through-hole capacitors if they need to be replaced. Stop it with all this recapping craze that is going on in the vintage computer community. Stop it. You're actually doing more harm than good. Most of the time, the electrolytic capacitors, through-hole capacitors do not need to be replaced. If they look good and the computer is working properly, don't replace them. I'm a firm believer in if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay? So, let's put these screws back into the top cover on this Amiga 1000 power supply. They look like that. Okay? And I'm going to use a low torque, one of my low torque German screwdrivers, because these are fine thread. So you don't want to use a full size number 2 Phillips like I see most of you using. There's a reason why you have different size screwdrivers. One size does not fit all. Okay? So I would highly recommend that you invest in a good set of screwdrivers. And if you have one of those screwdriver sets that has like the handle and you plug in all these different tips, throw that crap in the garbage. Do it now. Pause the video. If you've got one of those screwdriver sets, throw it in the garbage right now. They're garbage, and they will do more harm than good. They will actually ruin the heads of your screws, and they will most definitely strip out any of the plastic threads in the plastic cases or plastic parts. Invest in a good set of screwdrivers. Okay? Remember, if you're going to be working on vintage computers, you need to invest in the proper tools. Don't be stupid. Don't be lazy. Invest in the proper tools. Okay, so this power supply looks a lot different than what it did the first time, in part 1 of this video series when I showed it to you. Looks a lot cleaner now. It's ready to go into the Amiga 1000. A lot cleaner there in the rear. I mean, look at that. And this fan is actually very quiet. It was quiet even with all the dust in it. It was actually very quiet. So, yeah. If that fan is overly noisy, the bearings are going out. Usually this fan only gets noisy if the bearings are going out. So if you have to replace this fan, go back with this, replace it with the same type of fan. And like in this case, a 110 volt AC fan. Try to get with the same parameters that are on the back of this fan. In fact, you can still get these fans on eBay and on different sites around the internet. You can still get these fans, brand new. Yeah, there's cases of them. Anyway, okay, so this power supply is ready to put back into the Amiga 1000. All right. Now we're going to work on the Amiga 1000 computer's disk drive. This disk drive is a very high quality drive. It was one of the highest quality drives that Commodore ever had produced for them. This drive was made in Japan by Panasonic. This drive was made back when drives cost around $350. Whereas a few years later, the prices started dropping on the disk drives all the way down to like you could pick them up for like around between $100 and $120. Now there must be a reason why this drive was so expensive. And the reason why these drives were so expensive, and other drives that from this time period that was made like this drive, okay, including the ones that my team used to make at NEC in Hillsboro, Oregon. We made drives for the Amiga computers and the Atari STs. The reason why these drives cost so much back then is because they were very high quality. They were very well made. Okay? So if you are lucky enough to have one of these disk drives, take care of this drive. Spend the time to refurbish it and to use a head cleaning disc to clean the heads. Blow out the dust. But I'm going to show you how to do all that right now. The first thing you need to do is you're going to need to remove these screws. There's 2 screws on each side that attach the drive to this drive chassis. Okay? So the best way to do that is to have it on, flip it over on its back like that. Have it toward the edge like that, right? I can do it by hand too, just to show you. I'll do it like this so you can see what I'm doing. I use a full-size number 2 Phillips screwdriver like this just to break that seal or that bond. Okay. Is this already... Okay, so those were already loose. I mean, these weren't even tightened. Oh my God, man. And then I go back with, a low torque number 2 Phillips, like this. Because these are fine thread, and I'll show them to you in a moment. They're fine thread. Keep those separate from the other screws. They go into the drive. I'll be right back. I dropped one of the screws. Okay. And so go ahead and remove these 2 screws. Mr. Campbell, why do you have the dropsies? Knock it off. Okay. And these are the type of screws, they're Phillips. These are the type of screws that go into to hold that drive onto the drive chassis. They're Phillips. Looks like they're made out of brass. Okay, they're really nice screws. They're fine pitch thread, and that's the reason why you want to use a low torque screwdriver like this. Okay. So, we got that. Be very careful with that eject button. It breaks very easy on these drives. I'll explain why in a moment. Now, this metal chassis right here, this could be wiped down again with a rag that has WD-40 sprayed on it, and I'm going to do that off camera. Do the inside, the inside and the outside. Take this piece of tape off. I would recommend putting a piece of Kapton tape right there. Replace this with Kapton tape. And what this is for is to keep this metal edge from cutting into the cable, the LED cable that's attached to this disk drive. It keeps it, because it goes right past through there. So it keeps it from cutting those wires. Okay, but I would just take that off and make sure this is clean before you put Kapton tape on there. Okay, and just replace that with a piece of Kapton tape. Yeah. But yeah, clean this chassis really good. Okay. Alright, so here is the actual drive itself. As you can see, it's a really nice drive. This can be cleaned to a WD-40, but don't get carried away with it, because you don't want to get any kind of oils or anything inside this magnet or inside that cover. Something that's going to attract dust, because the power supply fan pulls air through into, through every opening of the Amiga 1000, including the disk drive opening, and it pulls the air through that power supply. Okay, that's the reason why the drives get dusty, because this is one of the openings that pulls the air in. Okay, so the way you open this is you have to use, again, I might have to go with a smaller number 2 Phillips, like this one here. I don't know if you can read the number on that or not, but I have a full set of these. I recommend you get a full set of these too, because these are really nice drives. Nice screwdrivers. Really nice screwdrivers. And that screwdriver there, it's a flathead, it's really fine thread. So you really got to use the proper screwdriver for that. Okay, this is very low torque. It's exactly what you need for those screws. Okay, do the same thing. I don't know why it's got this tape on. It's like cloth tape. I don't know why they got that on there like that. Maybe it's to keep from shorting out against something. But this is like a cloth tape. Now you have to remove this cover in order to properly, clean this disk drive, and we'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, I'd recommend wiping this down. Now on the inside, remember, do not use a rag with WD-40 on the inside. Just brush it like this with, I use a makeup brush. They work really good for that. Any dust that might be in there, just, get rid of with a makeup brush like that. Okay, don't use any WD-40 on the inside of the drive. Okay, just use, if there's any dust in it, there wasn't any dust in here, but if there is, brush it out. Well, I use a makeup brush, or any like a camel hair or natural fiber brush. Now the outside, I don't know, this is made out of aluminum. And because this is aluminum, you don't have to worry about it oxidizing or rusting so much, because this is aluminum. So it's actually made of aluminum. Really nice drive. Very nice drive. Alright, so this is the drive itself, and what I could do is just... Okay, so there's the drive. Okay, this is the eject button. You got to be really careful with that. It just pops in by a couple of clips, and those clips are made out of plastic. They can very easily break. So, yeah. They can very easily break, so just if you have to clean this, hold it on each side, give it a sponge bath with a damp, warm damp sponge, just clean it real good while you're holding on to the eject switch. You don't want to break that eject switch. Those clips break very easily. But yeah, just take this outside, blow it out with an air compressor. This one's actually pretty clean. This is actually a very clean drive considering how old this drive is. This is like from around 1985-86. And yet it's very clean. So what I would recommend doing is just blowing the inside out with your air compressor. Just real quick, just blow it out real quick. You'll see the dust come out of it. And then take your cotton swabs and alcohol, and then squeeze out the alcohol. You just want the cotton swab damp. You don't want it soaking wet with alcohol. Okay? Where you want to clean is these glide paths right here. Those glide paths that the discs actually slide on. There's one on each side. That's where you want to clean. You want to make sure that's nice and clean, so that it doesn't mess up your discs, and your discs slide in there real nice and easy. Don't worry about cleaning all this. It's got a little bit of dust in there. Blow it out with the air compressor. That's fine. Do not clean the heads with cotton swabs and alcohol. I see so many of you doing that. Do not do that. Don't do it. Invest in the proper head cleaning discs. that comes with the proper head cleaning fluid. And I'll show you the program that I use. It's an Amiga program that I run on my Amiga computers, including the Amiga 1000, okay, that it moves the heads back and forth. That's what it does. And it spins the disk, okay. And it's a program that's used with head cleaning disks. And that is the proper way of cleaning the heads of these drives. Because not only does it clean the heads, but there is a thin plastic cover that covers the actual head. Okay? And that needs to be kept polished. And that's one of the things the head cleaning disc does. It polishes that thin plastic cover that covers the heads. Okay? When you use cotton swabs with alcohol, it can cause a chemical reaction with the glue or the adhesive that holds those covers over those heads to protect the heads. And that's the covers, that adhesive can become undone or unstuck, causing the protective covers over the heads to come off or fall off. And if that happens, the driver's ruined. You might as well throw it away, because these heads are hard to find. So yeah, do not use cotton swabs with alcohol to clean these heads. Don't do it. And I see just about every one of you doing that. Don't do it. Use the proper head cleaning discs. I know they're getting hard to find now, but I suggest you find them, because that's what you should be using. That's what I use. So yeah, I'm going to take this drive out and outside and blow it, because I have my air compressor set up today, and I'll blow this out really good, and I will be back shortly. Yep, I will be back shortly. All right. I notice on a lot of you in your videos, you have like your alcohol put into like a spray bottle, and you spray it on whatever you need alcohol on, and you wipe it with a toothbrush or whatever. Don't do that. That is not the proper way for cleaning parts or motherboards or whatever. Don't do that. Only a dumbass cleans electronic circuit boards that way. Just don't do it. Don't do it. This is the proper thing that you should use. Okay, this right here is, you put alcohol in this. I'd recommend 99% alcohol. Okay, that's what we use in the electronics industry, and we use this type of a pump bottle. You just press up and down like that, and it pumps the alcohol into this little reservoir right here, whatever you call this. And then you can dip your Q-tip in that, or your cotton makeup pad, or whatever or your brush, whatever that you're going to be using for cleaning your parts or your boards. I'd recommend that you get one of these. Okay, and they're not that expensive. I find them on eBay for like, I don't know, $5, you know, free shipping, whatever. This is what you know, like I said before, if you're going to be working on vintage electronics or vintage computers, okay, you need to invest in the proper tools. The first thing you need is an anti-static mat. It's the very first thing you need. I highly recommend you get an anti-static mat, like what I use on my workbench. I would also invest in a proper set of screwdrivers. Okay? Another thing I would invest in is alcohol bottles like this. This is what we use professionally in the electronics industry. This is what we use. Okay? So, and this is what I use here in the shop. Okay? So, see, there's an alcohol bottle right there, right? We're going to open it up, right? This is how we do it professionally. Pump it a few times, right? See how the alcohol flows up on top? Dip your cotton swab in there like that. You want to squish out the excess. You don't want it sopping wet. And then on your disk drive, you want to clean just the glide path. The path that the disc actually rides on when it goes into the drive. This needs to be clean at all times. It needs to be clean. This is the part that could mess up your disc and cause it to be sticky or not want to eject properly. Definitely want to clean those they're called glide paths. That's what the disc glides on or rides on. Okay, so take the other side, dip it in the alcohol, right? Close this back so it doesn't dry out. And again, squeeze it out a little bit. You don't want it sopping wet, right? And then, again, you clean that part where the disc rides on. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but that has to be kept clean. Has to be nice and clean. Okay? There you go. Try not to get the alcohol on the plastic parts. Okay? Like that, and that's good enough. That's all you need to do. And I've blown this out with an air compressor so there's no dust in there. Do not take cotton swabs like I saw Jan Beta do and clean it in there and all that. That's unnecessary. Don't do that. Just don't do it. Take an air compressor, blow it out. Don't be lazy. Take an air compressor, blow out the dust. That's all you need to do. Clean these disc glide paths right here. That's it. Use a head cleaning disc to clean the heads, and that's it. That's all you need to do on the drives. So now we're going to put the drive back into its case. Okay. So actually, before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and clean this. And I'll put a piece of Kapton tape right here. Just pull this up, put Kapton tape on. It goes right near where all these are here. So pull that off, all right? And I'll be back after I clean that up. All right. I got to cut a piece of this Kapton tape. This is, I think, a 1/2 inch. Actually, I think it's like 3/4 inch, this Kapton tape. I also have like a 1/2 inch that I use. Now, Commodore originally used black electrical tape, but that stuff doesn't really stick that well. It's actually better to use Kapton tape. This is what we use professionally in the electronics industry. And we just cut a piece of it. Yeah, piece of Kapton tape. And then we put it, well, actually, this might be a little bit too big. Might be a little bit too big. Yeah, this might be too big. So let me cut a little bit of that off. It might be a little bit too big. Yeah. And then just don't crease it, just fold it over like that. And that will, it should help keep that sharp metal edge from cutting into the disk drive's LED wire. Okay, but this is what Commodore should have used. But I don't know if they had Kapton tape back then. I don't remember having Kapton tape back in the early 80s, early to mid 80s. Yeah. But yeah. Okay, so all right. Yeah, by doing that, that helps. You know, it helps keep this, because these are real fine wires right here. You don't want these getting cut. So, yeah. So now we got to put this back into this drive cage right here. Yeah. Put it back into the drive cage. Okay, how do we... Oh, come on, get in there. That's gonna be right fucking... Come on. Okay, right like that. And I think... Oh, whoa, Miss Campbell. Whoa, Mr. Campbell. I'm forgetting something. I've already cleaned this really good. This has to go back. It has to go back on. Okay. Just got to go back on. Like that. Okay, and that's weird that it's got that like nylon cloth tape on there. I wonder why they did that. Of course, that is facing where all those brass screws go into, so yeah. Okay. Now for this, we need the smaller number 2 Phillips. Not number 1, it's a number 2 Phillips, but it's a much smaller size. Okay. Just snug it, that's all you need. Do not over tighten. Those are fine threads. Do not over tighten. Okay. Yeah, do not over tighten it, boys and ghouls. Do not over tighten. Okay. Now for the other screws, we're going to need this size low torque number 2 Phillips right here. This is the size that we're going to need. Okay. So now we put this in here like, well, like this. Make sure it goes in. I don't want to break it or like that. Just like that, boys and ghouls. And get that screw put in there. Don't tighten them yet until you get them all in. Remember that. In general, when you're doing mechanical assembly, do not tighten all the screws until you get them all in. Do not tighten any of the screws until you get them all in. That will allow whatever you're working on to seat itself properly. Okay? Like that there. Do not tighten any of the screws. Till you get them all in. Then you start tightening them. And you just want them snug, especially on fine thread screws like that. I shook my camera. Damn it, I hit my head. I hit my head on my homemade camera boom that I made out of wood. I am going to do a video real soon where I show you guys my shop. I am going to do a video on that. Now, hold it like this because you want the weight of the drive to drop down. Actually, I'm trying to think, should I do it like that? Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. I could do it like that. I'll do it like this. Yeah, I'll do it like this. Okay, so now just snug it. Do not over tighten. They do not need to be that tight. Okay, because these are fine threads. Okay, and that's it. That's all you need to do there. And then we'll plug in. Okay, there's a ground wire that gets plugged in right here. Okay, get that plugged in there. Then there's the disk drive's power lead that gets plugged in. And it should clip into place. It locks into place. Okay. And then we plug in the disk drive cable and make sure that pin 1, which is a red stripe, goes toward the power connector. Okay, and then plug it in, plug it in. Oh, Hans, don't start that again. Oh my God. Okay, so that drive there is ready to go back into the Amiga 1000 computer. I sponge bath the eject button. I blow out the dust out of the drive. I took cotton swab alcohol and cleaned the disk drive glide pass in there. That's all you need to do. I cleaned this with WD-40 so it doesn't oxidize or rust. And I put a fresh piece of Kapton tape on that over here to protect this from, actually, wait a moment. Why is that? Did I put it on the wrong side? I think I put it on the wrong side. Oh my God, it goes on this side. Oh my God, I could have sworn it went on this side. In fact, yeah, I think it does. Actually, I don't know. Because this goes in like this in the Amiga 1000, and then this goes, you know what? I don't remember it being near the eject button. So I'm probably going to take this thing back apart. I'll do it off camera. I'll leave this on here just in case, but I'm going to put another piece over here just to be on the safe side. I'm not sure which side is supposed to go on. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'm pretty sure it is this side. Anyway, that's the drive. The disk drive. Now, if you wanted to change out the LED on your Amiga 1000 disk drive, you can do that. I have both amber and blue LEDs. Let me get them. Here is the amber ones, and this is the proper size. I found these on eBay, but this is a beautiful amber color. And instead of the red for the disk drive, I may change it to this amber color. It's a really beautiful amber color. Yeah. And then for the power, just to be different on my Amiga 1000 computer, right? I can install one of these. It's the same size as the rectangular LED that's in it, only this is blue. Now if I do this though, I got to change the resistor that's on the motherboard, the current limiting resistor for the LED, because it's set up for a red LED, which is 20 milliamps. Okay, it's probably like around 330 ohm. So in order for this to have a nice glow to it and not be overly bright, because you got to be careful with blue LEDs that they're not overly bright. I'm probably going to have to replace the 330 ohm resistor with a 470 ohm, just to make these glow around the same brightness as a red LED would glow, you know, but yeah. All right. So I managed to get the Kapton tape on both sides because I'm not sure which side needs it. To be on the safe side, I went ahead and put it on both. I also wiped down the bottom of this this flywheel here with some WD-40 sprayed onto a rag, and I cleaned it with a clean dry rag because I noticed there was some fingerprints on the bottom that started causing rust. I don't want that getting rusted. Yeah. So this disk drive is ready to go back into the Amiga 1000 computer. All right. As you can see, I washed the case. Let me zoom out a little bit. I did wash the case. It was filthy, if you remember from the first video, but now it's nice and clean. Okay. I am looking for a cover to go over this, so if any of you guys have one of these covers, please get in contact with me. My email is in the About Me part of this YouTube channel. And send me one of these covers. I'm sure we can work out a deal, you know. I'll either pay you for it or maybe trade you something that you need, you know, for this cover. If you have one of these, I'd like to replace this cover. Even though I have a Super 4x4 that plugs into here, and then a hard drive plugs into that, you know. This cover, it covers, well actually, yeah, it covers the expansion port that's on the Super 4x4. So yeah, you use the same cover for that. But as you can see, this is a lot cleaner now than what it was before. Even the bottom part is a lot cleaner than what it was. And what I've decided to do for the feet, there's nothing wrong with these 4 feet here. The original feet here, they're fine. They appear to be in really nice shape, nice and black, matte black finish. I don't know why this one's missing. So what I decided to do on here is just put a couple of pieces of cork feet. They're about the same thickness as these. Put a couple pieces of cork feet right there. You can get like little round, like half-inch round cork feet, self-adhesive feet. You know, just put those on there and then shave off the excess with some flush cutters. Just go along the edge like this and just, you know, cut it. Or you can also use like a pair like this, these flush cutters like that, just to cut off the excess. Be careful not to mess up the plastic. And just have like a rectangular shaped cork road bed, or excuse me, cork feet right there. And that would be fine. I might even put a full round cork there. Just give some support right there. So you can see how it was rubbing like right about there. Put a round, like a half-inch round cork foot right there, self-adhesive. You know. Yeah, I think that'll work out pretty good. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about this case. I think it goes this way. All right. First thing you want to do when you reassemble an Amiga 1000 computer is you want to put the power supply in. That's the very first thing you install, is the power supply. Now, One thing I noticed on this particular Amiga 1000, and I believe this one is from 1986, I noticed some of the Amiga 1000 computers, these plastic posts here are threaded, allowing you to screw in the power supply tabs that go over this and the motherboard. Okay, and you use screws like that. They're small self-tapping screws. I'd say that's about a 1/16 of an inch in diameter, real small. You don't want them too big, because if they're too big, then they can split these. They can crack these or split these. Okay? But these original, these here were not tapped. That means a screw was never installed in these posts here, and that was done at the factory. I wonder why Commodore chose not to install the screws here, because this is you really need to have those screws there. Okay? Anyway, let's go ahead and put the power supply back in. The power supply goes in first, then the motherboard. And see these, okay, it's supposed to slide in from the bottom. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it slides in right there and there. You know, it slides in. And make sure that that's slid in. Okay? It has to be slid in like that. And then after you put the motherboard in here, after you install the motherboard, right, which will be in part 3. I'll finish assembling this in part 3. There is going to be a part 3 and possibly a part 4. Okay, so stay tuned for these next parts. I don't like to do disassembly and assembly all in one part. Like a lot of people, they speed it up. No, I don't like doing that. I want you to see, you know, the full step-by-step disassembly and assembly. Like when I'm working on computers and I'm refurbishing them or whatever, I want you to really get into it. I want you to see what I'm doing. And I think you'll appreciate it more. You'll appreciate my videos more because I do it this way. Anyway, yeah, this is pretty nice. The rest of the parts are just as clean. You know, the case turned out really nice. In fact, I think this whole computer is going to wind up looking like brand new when I get finished with it. Anyway, that's it for this second part. Stay tuned for part 3. That'll be coming up real soon. Anyway, my name is Hans George Campbell, and until next time.